Alright, and we are here at the season finale of My Adventures with Superman. 10 episodes. Look, I'm not gonna go all back in my day. Trust me, guys, I'm not really that old, but when you were born in the 90s and you are spoiled with seasons that lasted like 20 plus episodes, to be looking at TV now and have all these shows that have like 8 episode and 10 episode seasons, it's just like, really? Where's the rest of my stuff? Where's my content? But anyway, yeah. We're at the season finale of My Adventures with Superman, and it was a pretty interesting season finale. They answered some more questions, and then, of course, they gave us more questions, which is how things go. We know that it's already been greenlit for another season, so yeah, we don't have to worry about any dangling plot threads or anything. But let's go ahead and get to the review of the episode, okay? So we start off with Clark in the cornfield where his ship is, and then all of a sudden the portal, or the ship raises, the portal opens, and the invaders come again. And as Lois and Jimmy start running to him, they get blasted by the invader who comes through the portal. He's just like the same one who was blasting the soldiers in the other episode. And as Clark is getting all mad and stuff, the invader raises his mask or whatever, and you see that it's Clark's face. And then Clark wakes up, because obviously this is a dream. I'm pretty sure you know this is a dream, like, right off the bat. But the whole premise of the episode is Clark has invited Lois and Jimmy over to his parents' house for Thanksgiving dinner. And Lois has also invited her father, so Clark can meet her father. Now, I don't think I've talked about it too much in the previous reviews for the other episodes, but if you didn't know who Lois' father was before, then I don't know. You know what? I'll be fair. Maybe you're not real big on Superman or real big in comics or whatever, but I had kind of telegraphed who Lois' father was a while ago. I just never said it. And even in this episode, when they were leading up to it, it was no surprise. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. We knew that, didn't we? We should have. But anyway, I'll get to that in a second. So, Lois, Clark, and Jimmy all get bumped up to reporter at the Daily Planet because of their effort and everything they've done so far. That's kind of a minor plot point, except for the fact that Jimmy was stopped by the chief, and he basically wants to buy Firebird, Jimmy's site. So we don't really see that. That's kind of off screen. But Lois and Clark go on ahead to Smallville, and everything's all nice and stuff. Lois is talking to Miss Kent, Martha. Yeah, I know y'all get that joke, the Martha joke. But anyway, yeah, they're kind of discussing things. Things don't really start picking up until Lois's dad gets there, which, of course, when she opens the door, we find out that her dad is the General. Dun dun dun. Yeah, we knew that already. But anyway, yeah, we find out that Lois's dad is the General, and he's kind of grilling Clark like, what do you do with your life, and have you been here, or have you done, he just obviously typical dad questions now. This scene reminded me a lot of Spider-Man Homecoming, when Peter and Liz's dad, who of course we know was the Vulture, were in that car, and he was kind of talking, and there was like this tense situation because Peter knew who he was, but he wasn't quite aware of who Peter was. And this is a similar situation because Clark is really tense, and the General obviously doesn't know that Clark is Superman. But he asks this really interesting question because while he's questioning Clark, one of the questions he asks is, do you always wear glasses? And that was a really good question. I was like, okay, well, not everybody in Metropolis is an idiot, because he was slowly piecing it together. He just needed a little bit more time, but they were interrupted because Jimmy had showed up, and basically everybody's kind of pulling Jimmy around to tell him about whatever was going on. And then finally Clark, Jimmy, and Lois go outside. Jimmy accidentally drops the little orb that has the kryptonite and the hologram of all the other Supermen. And Clark, of course, sees that and starts to kind of panic. But it doesn't take long before he has a completely other reason to panic, because the kryptonite gets to him. And in this show is interesting how it affects him, because he kind of, it's almost like he's having an attack. Like he's kind of seizes up or whatever, and he falls to the ground, which is different from the usual thing we see, which is him just kind of getting weak and falling to the ground, groaning or whatever. But as the kryptonite is attacking, as it's affecting him, it triggers the ship, and Jor-El, who of course we know has been kind of, I guess, monitoring him, realizes, and he mentioned something about kryptonite, which is a interesting situation in itself, because do the Kryptons know what kryptonite is? I guess maybe Brainiac does, but anyway, and I'll get to him in a second. But the ship activates and it raises up and it starts sending out these drones and everything. Lois and Jimmy pick up the kryptonite, put it back in the orb, and Clark starts to kind of recover. He gets his parents out of there, and then the general is like, okay, this is the invasion that we've been waiting on for 20 years. And he starts contacting Amanda Waller and everybody and telling them to come to his location. Now, not too much happens from this whole situation. All that really needs to be said is that Lois finds out that her father is a general that kidnapped Superman, and Superman ends up, of course, saving them. After Superman saves Lois and her father from one of the robots, a portal opens up, and it's the same portal from from last week's episode, the general showed Clark from 20 years ago. And basically the portal opens up and the same Armada is like kind of sitting there chilling. I'm like, y'all been waiting here for 20 years for that portal to open up? Like, really? You had nothing else to do? But anyway, yeah, so they're sitting there about to come on through the portal again like they were in the first time around. And Clark takes the kryptonite from Lois, or at least the kryptonite orb, and zips up to the through the portal to the invading ship, and there he's attacked by more of the drones and everything. Now, what I wanted to say earlier about these drones is that they bear the symbol of Brainiac, and you see the symbol in Clark's ship when Jor-El realizes that Clark is being affected by kryptonite. So I don't know why it didn't dawn on me until now when I actually saw the symbol that these robots could be Brainiac related. I mean, hey, it was just, this show is so different with a lot of things. I guess it just didn't really click like that in my head. But yeah, the robots there, they all have Brainiac symbols, so I think it's pretty safe to say these are Brainiac robots. They end up getting the better of Clark until Jor-El's hologram shows up and like zips through them and deactivates them or something. And Clark is able to get the kryptonite to the core and pretty much stick the kryptonite in the core, and it stops the invading ship. And it also, I believe, cuts off the portal too. So Jor-El puts Clark in his pod, much like the actual pod you were used to seeing him in when he's sent to Earth. And that's that in terms of Clark's involvement, because he gets back on Earth. The general aims his special weapon at him, and Lois stops him. And they have this father-daughter heart-to-heart thing, and then he decides not to shoot Clark, and he goes on about his business. Now, the big stinger is when the episode cuts to the other side of the portal where the invading forces were. And you see, again, this robot, which seems to be the lead robot, which, by the way, also has Brainiac's symbol. And he flies out to tell, I guess, his superior about really about Earth, and how that's basically where he needs to go to invade next. And the figure is just, he has his red cape and he still has his helmet on, he's armored up and everything. So I guess it's kinda safe to say maybe that this is General Zod. We really still don't know. I mean, the one correction I guess I can make about the episode last week is that I thought there was a bunch of Kryptonians, but now that we see this ship must have been full of robots instead of people, or instead of Kryptonians. So maybe it is General Zod and Brainiac working together. I guess that's the only thing I can think of. And if that's the case, then I guess the Kryptonians' legacy is saved from being tarnished, because that was just weird that the Kryptonians would be just invading planets like that. But for General Zod, yeah, that makes a bit more sense. So if it's General Zod and Brainiac, that is an interesting combo that I don't know if this particular Superman is ready for yet, because he has kind of got slapped around by kind of regular people with powered or superpowered weapons. So he's gonna have to kind of level up a good bit to be able to handle Brainiac and General Zod, because Brainiac alone gave Superman a run for his money in the 90s cartoon. So who knows what he can do on here. And heck, even in this show, the drones that Brainiac sent out gave him a run for his money. So again, if we're talking about the actual Brainiac, who knows how it's gonna go. Side note, if that is Brainiac, then the 90s look for Brainiac was a lot cooler than this look for Brainiac, but that's another story. Anyway, all in all, the first season of My Adventures with Superman was really good. I'll say it kept me on my heels, because I would try to predict stuff and they would just take it in a whole nother angle. And then other stuff I probably could predict, but it's like they went about it in a different way. Kind of like with Lois's dad. I think Lois's dad was probably the only thing I could concretely just peg from the beginning. But other than that, yeah, the show did a good job of kind of having its own path and doing its own thing with this first season. Jack Quaid did a good job with Superman. That's the only name I know right now. I don't know Lois and Jimmy's names, but they did a good job too. So all around, like, the series so far is really good. I'm looking forward to the second season. I'm hoping that they introduce more Superman characters from the Superman lore and delve into more of the Kryptonian side, because Clark's dad never ever spoke English. Like, he only said like 3 English words. It was like my son and something else. So I don't know why they didn't ever address the Kryptonian and English language barrier. Like, why didn't they eventually let Clark understand what he was saying? It's kind of weird. And I'm hoping that they address that in the next season, because at least right now, as far as we know, there's no way for Clark to converse with Jor-El again, because that ship is gone. But we don't know. Maybe there's something that was on that pod that will allow him to talk to him, because Superman is supposed to have some of his Kryptonian technology available to him still, because that's how he goes and makes the Fortress of Solitude and everything. So it's still some stuff that they kind of have to address and deal with in this series. But for now, I would say for a starter, it did a good job. Now, if I had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it like I'd probably give it about 8.5. Just certain things that the show did that I probably would have handled differently, but that's not a bad score. Like, this show was really good. I enjoyed it. And I probably could see myself going back and watching it again, especially when it's time for season 2 to come out. Hopefully that doesn't take long. That's another issue with how things are done nowadays. Like, you get one season 1 year and you gotta wait like 3 years for the next season. Times were so much better in the 90s. But hey, that's pretty much my thoughts on this first season of My Adventures with Superman, and my thoughts on this episode. Drop a comment to let me know what you thought about this episode. Did you like it? Are you looking forward to season 2? Did anything frustrate you about the whole Kryptonian Jor-El not speaking English thing like it did with me? Who do you think these big bad guys are? Like, just like drop all that in the comments. Let me know, because I'm curious to know what you all think. But yeah, hit that like button, subscribe, and remember, we have the high ground. Catch you later.